Welcome everybody to Forza Motorsport 6, and today we're dealing with a 1995 BMW 850CSi. Now the 8 Series was a Grand Tourer built between 1989 and 1999. This version however was built between 1992 and 1996 with 1,510 being produced. So a very rare car, and easily one of the rarest BMWs that were mass produced. And yeah, I think it looks great. It's actually quite practical. It's got rear seats and it's pretty luxurious in the front and a decent sized boot. But obviously being a Grand Tourer, it also has quite a lot of power and quite a big engine going for it, which is probably kind of an understatement because it's also one of the biggest engines BMW has ever made. I'm not quite sure if it's the biggest because they have done V12s for instance in saloon cars. But yeah, this is a 5.6 litre V12 engine, naturally aspirated, producing 372 horsepower and 402 pounds-feet of torque, which is a huge amount of power. Not just back then, but even now that would be pretty good, though obviously being from a V12 it would be a bit lacking compared to its competitors if it did have that size engine, because obviously you can get that amount of power from way smaller engines. Also has pop-up headlights, which I think makes it look a bit weird when it's got them up like that. But down, I think it looks pretty good. Only major complaint in terms of ordinary kind of stuff is the woodwork inside. Kind of looks a bit 70s if you ask me. Just doesn't really go with the rest of the car, which granted it's a bit bland, but there's a difference between bland and goddamn ugly as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, this version was the top of the range version of the 8 Series. It had improved suspension, improved aerodynamics with different front and rear bumpers, and 4-round stainless steel exhaust tips, which the other ones only had square ones. And yeah, it was manual only as well, no automatics available because this was a series car with series performance. And to see that, we're going to take this out to the track and see what it can do, so see you when we get there. Welcome to Virginia International Raceway. We're going to take this car around on the first lap and talk through it on the second lap. So as you can see, it's no slouch despite being 21 years old and not having all that much power for a V12 engine. But it's still pretty damn good in terms of performance nonetheless, despite having way less power than you'd expect from a V12 engine. But obviously this was 21 years ago, and yeah, engineering wasn't as brilliant as it is now, that's for sure. But yeah, acceleration wise, still pretty damn good. 0 to 60, 5.9 seconds, 0 to 114.3 seconds, and even though it was electronically limited to 160, you can go on to a top speed of between like 180 and 196 mile an hour. Forza predicts it's 182, but BMW themselves said it could do 196. So yeah, that's a pretty damn high top speed from a car that's, yeah, might have a big engine, but were cars with as much power, if not more, around at the time, with even smaller engines. So yeah, still pretty damn good nonetheless, and still impressive even by today's standards, when you consider the fact it weighs a fair bit as well. It weighs 4,240 pounds, which is a hell of a lot, but it handles the weight pretty damn good with, like I said, it has improved suspension over the other versions of this car. And despite the fact it does have that big engine up front, sorry about that, my phone's going off, just have to ignore that. But yeah, despite the fact that it has all that weight and that big engine up front, it doesn't understeer, and it handles its power really rather well. It doesn't oversteer, it doesn't lose grip, and even if you do push it though, it will struggle in areas, but yeah, still pretty damn good nonetheless, and it's certainly a nice treat. Engine also sounds really good as well. It's silky smooth as you'd expect from a V12, but doesn't make a song and dance about it, and that's probably down to the fact that it's German, and not many German cars do make a song and dance about things as usual. But it's a Grand Tourer as well, you've got to realise it's not a track car at all. This is meant for long distance cruising, and you could cruise all day in this thing, slam it into high gear, and that V12 will pull you no matter what, and it won't make a noise either. And it's luxurious as well for the time, like I showed you before. So yeah, a great car, quite frankly, and a car that you won't see BMW make anymore, but it's a unique piece of history from their history themselves, and it's certainly a car that didn't really have much rivalry back then either. Granted, there were Mercedes a few years later that were V12s and were coupes, but I still think this is one of the more interesting cars, and it's certainly unique in terms of looks and performance. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.